You need winners? Let the Football Insiders show you how to make money. General Manager Al DeMarco, a former sports reporter and contributor on Fox Sports, MSNBC, and Comcast Sports TV, brings over 25 years of handicapping experience to the table. CEO Steve Budin, the author of Bets, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, is the man responsible for creating the sports betting industry. Together, they are the Football Insiders, your number one source for football winners.
Week 3 of the NFL season in the books, and if you had to give it a movie title, I would say it would be The Dogs Struck Back, because the underdogs last weekend went 9-5-2, and you had 8 of those 9 underdogs winning outright. The only puppy who didn't win outright, that is, the Cleveland Browns. But hey, they're the Cleveland Browns. What do you expect? And guys, you had 4 road dogs winning outright. And guys, listen, when underdogs cash in at that rate, my perspective is that only 2 things are happening, and neither one of them are good from a gambling perspective. Generally, gamblers and handicappers are losing their shirts, and bookmakers are making an absolute fortune. Hi, everyone. This is the Football Insiders, the only nationally televised show the past 10 years to break down your top NFL games from a point spread perspective. I'm Al DeMarco, and joining me, as he does each and every week, Steve Budin from Miami, a former bookmaker. And Steve, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Doggies, definitely, when they are barking like they did last week, the gamblers are generally losing a fortune, because I think the natural inclination is that gamblers always gravitate toward the favorites.
And why not? It's the better team, Al. I mean, that's why they're the favorite. And why wouldn't you like the better team over the team that's not as good?
No, absolutely. And listen, you know, the week prior, you had 9 favorites coming in. And it's all cyclical. I mean, anybody that sits there after week number 3 saying, hey, you got to always bet the dogs, you got to always bet the dogs, you know, this week could be a totally different story. And with that in mind, let's start with the very first game. 2 dogs in a different manner. You've got Detroit taking on Chicago. The Bears 0-3 start after losing on Sunday night at Dallas, and you've got Brian Hoyer going once again for Chicago. You got a Detroit team that's coming off a close loss at Green Bay, but it wasn't really that close because it was a game that the Lions were down 31-10 at halftime. They tried to make a game of it. They made it a 7-point loss, but still, it's the Detroit Lions, who after opening up with a win to start the season, they have totally collapsed since then. But Steve, this is one of those games that I personally wouldn't bet on, but it's a series that the Lions have absolutely owned here of late. And I think it's a situation that if you're going to play this game, I think you have to at least look at Detroit minus the 3 points, because they've got the better quarterback who is at least going to move the ball up and down the field in Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, okay, with the Lions down 31-10 to the Pack last week at halftime, Al, I was wondering to myself if Matthew Stafford had any balls left at all. And you're right, he may not have gotten the W, but he did finish strong. He did give his team a chance to tie. He wound up throwing for 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Al, a lot of Stafford's success is due to Marvin Jones. Let's be honest, monster game last week. 6 catches, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns. And let me tell you how this Lions teams work, Al. It takes them about 3 games to realize that they've got no business whatsoever running the football. Now we're going to see them passing on every down, spreading the field. It's going to be catch me if you can. And this is a Chicago team that doesn't have the defense to stop them. The Bears defense allowing close to 28 points per game, 27th in the league. Not much better on offense if you ask me. Give me the Lions here minus the points.
Well, you know, last week against Dallas, that defense for Chicago allowed 447 yards, 199 on the ground. But the problem with the Lions is when they lost Amir Abdullah, who's probably going to be out for the season, poof, there goes their ground game. So it is Matthew Stafford constantly dropping back, constantly throwing the ball. So the one way the Lions could attack that suspect Bears defense is on the ground, but I don't think they're going to have the artillery to do so. The one thing I will say, though, Bears 1-8 straight up and against the spread so far since John Fox took over that team playing at home. And, of course, Detroit swept the season series a year ago. So if you're going to play it, I would say go with Detroit. But again, to me, this is one of those who cares game of the week selections. Next one, certainly a better game. You've got Houston laying the points at home against Tennessee. A better game only from this perspective. You've got Houston with the extra rest after being embarrassed in that Thursday night game at New England last week, getting shut out 27-0. Now, I rode the Texans in week number 1, using them as a free play, used them as my best bet in week number 2 at home when they took care of business defensively against Kansas City. I think this is a great spot. Under a touchdown, you could get me to lay 10 points in this spot, and I would still take the Houston Texans against a Tennessee team that simply has not been able to get it going offensively this season.
Look, Tennessee Titans offense, Al, not a good week last week. If quarterbacks were like luxury cars, Marcus Mariota would be a Ford Focus. I mean, he threw for 214 yards last week, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and the lost fumble. Look, the one thing he is, Al, is consistent. I mean, he's thrown for less than 300 yards every single game this season. He's got 4 touchdowns. He's got 4 interceptions. Bravo. Garbage. Houston, on the other hand, they come in humbled, Al. They come in humbled by a New England team that bitch slapped them in front of the whole country last week. Al, listen to me. They got bitch slapped last week like Pookie the Pimp on Pimps Up and Hose Down. It was bad. But I tell you the truth, I really like them here in this spot. I think we're getting the value in the point spread. Under a touchdown, they are much more than 6.5 better than this Tennessee team. Give me the Houston Texans. It is the value play of the day.
And just in case you missed it, Steve said that Houston got bitch slapped. I just want to make sure, in case you didn't hear it the first 3 times. But hey, I'm with you. You don't have to convince me. Listen, Houston 13-4 ATS run as a favorite. You've got the number 1 pass defense. That is the Texans through the first 3 games. You've got a Tennessee team that hasn't scored more than 16 points through the first 3 games in any single contest. You've got a Texans defense with J.J. Watt that has 10 sacks. That's the second most in the NFL so far this season. And you got a Tennessee team that's on a 9-29-3 ATS skid. A Tennessee team that's 8-23-3 in terms of its ATS numbers as an underdog. Those are money-losing propositions. And people say, well, hey, any given week, a team can turn those numbers around. Those are long-time dog numbers and not the type of dog numbers that we were talking about at the top of the show. Those are just bad numbers. Sometimes dogs are dogs with fleas, and that's what the Tennessee Titans are. Here's another interesting game. You got a Baltimore team that is 3.5 at home against Oakland. And everybody's saying, hey, Ravens are off to a 3-0 start. They beat the Bills by 6 at home. They beat the Browns by 5. They beat the Jaguars by 2. Those 2 wins coming on the road. And those 3 teams have a combined 1 win so far this season. So I don't know what to make of the Ravens. They are certainly a better team than last year, but I don't know if that really says that much. And you've got an Oakland Raiders team that's 2-0 on the road, and they lost at home to the Atlanta Falcons. Go figure.
Look, the Oakland Raiders scored 17 points against Tennessee last week. Big deal. And as far as the Ravens go, to me, Al, Joe Flacco, he should get drug tested. He's now thrown just 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions through 3 games. I mean, say it ain't so, Joe, but quite frankly, he stinks. He may be 3-0, but 19 points a game, Al, it's not going to cut it. You see where I'm going here? I'm going under the posted total. 2 teams here, Al, they remind me of my poor friend Fat Freddy from high school. Nice guy, but when it came to picking up the chicks, he couldn't score. Well, neither can these 2 teams, Al. It's my Fat Freddy rule in effect. Give me the under here. It's going to be a low-scoring affair.
Okay, let me just throw this in here just in case anybody's interested. Oakland comes in here last in pass defense. They're allowing opposing quarterbacks to complete 65.1% of their passes. They only have 3 quarterback sacks in 3 games, but 2 of the guys they have faced, Matt Ryan and Drew Brees, the other guy, Marcus Mariota, so they have certainly faced some good pass offenses, at least in 2 of their games. This is a tough game. I got to be honest with you. I don't like the side. I can see where you're going with the total, the under in this game. But if I didn't like Detroit-Chicago, I can tell you I certainly don't like this Baltimore-Oakland game one bit. Now, next game, I love this one. Denver, -3 at Tampa Bay. Last week on this show, I said that Denver was going to be tested. They were going to go into Cincinnati, and they were going to lose. I also said Pittsburgh was going to take care of business at Philadelphia. So what the hell did I know last week? Absolutely nothing, because it was one of those weeks that I was absolutely wrong. This week, I learned my lesson because my best bet last Sunday happened to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Fool me once, you know the rest of that story. I love Denver. Denver showed me something last week. They showed me not only could they win with their defense, but listen, not only could they win offensively by running the ball with Anderson, but Trevor Siemian, very impressive. 4 touchdown passes, including 2 in the fourth quarter to rally his team for the road win at Cincinnati. And this team now taking on a Tampa Bay squad that has shown me nothing defensively, no pass rush, unable to stop teams from running the ball. So I think Anderson this week gets the ground game going once again for the Broncos. And I like Denver in this spot to improve to 4-0.
Look, let me keep it short and simple, because everything you said I agree with. Denver more balanced on offense than ever before. Balance of running, passing, they're doing everything. But Al, it's all about the Denver defense. The Denver defense means business. Jameis Winston, this Denver defense is about to treat you like a love scene from Oz. So just sit back and take it, my friend, because there's nothing you can do about it. Meanwhile, the Bucs defense, they've laid down for more NFL teams than Kim Kardashian. They gave up 24, and that was their best game. Then they gave up 40 and 37. Look, this one is not going to be close. It's all Broncos minus the points at home. I agree with you 100%, Al.
You know, people are watching this probably on YouTube, and first they're going to go back and go, what did he say about Oz? And then they're going to go back and say, that Kim Kardashian one, that was a really good one. I got to tell you, that was one of your best lines probably of the entire season so far.
Stick around, Al. It's been a short season.
Hey, listen, the Denver defense, number 4 in pass defense through 3 games, and they already have 12 sacks. And the one thing about Jameis Winston, you know, against bad defenses, he has certainly excelled with the 4 touchdown passes against Atlanta in week 1, 4 touchdown passes last week against the LA Rams in a shootout. But remember what he did against Arizona, a decent defense, when they picked him off 4 times, and now he's taking on a much better defense in Denver again, and I'm with you. I look at this line, and I see 3, and I'm wondering, is it a trap line?
Right.
And I just don't think so. I think Denver absolutely rolls here, and I just think that's the only way to play this game, because I think if Denver simply shows up, they win this one by a touchdown or more. Steve, before we get to the next game, Dallas and San Francisco, which I think could be a trap game with the Cowboys at 3 points. I just wanted to take a moment because, as we do in every single show, we often talk about other subjects here. I want to talk about something that has been kind of a black mark on this industry in the many years that it's existed, and it's sports services. We, of course, everything that we offer is 100% an online business. It's been that way since day one when we came online over 12 years ago. But often you will see advertisements where there are 800 numbers attached to it where people say it's absolutely free. And as I always say, when somebody tells you it's absolutely free, always look up to the sky, because when they tell you the sky is blue, check it twice to double confirm it. Because sports services only have one thing in mind. They want the money from your pocket before they give you anything that's so-called absolutely free.
And they want it today. They want it right now.
Right. And to me, they are the dinosaurs of this business, and it's beyond me how suckers still fall for their sales pitches.
It's true. I mean, we're in a business ourselves that was bred from this, but I would remind everybody that even magic mushrooms come from cow shit. Look, at the end of the day, if you've got somebody trying to get your money on the first call, you've never had a play from them, you don't know them, you don't know what they're about, you know that's a scam right away. And what we do is the exact opposite, Al. You know what we like to do. We like to pull back the curtain and give everybody not just one pick, not just 2 picks, but picks from everybody on our website, all the analysis, absolutely free. We want to show them and prove to them that we are the real deal, and that's why we have the best premium picks in the country.
Absolutely. And it amazes me that people out there believe that by paying more they're actually getting better picks.
Right.
When you go to our websites, you see picks that can be had for as cheap as $7.77. And yet there are people out there, gamblers out there, that really believe that by paying $250, $500, thousands of dollars, that they're getting better selections. Every single selection, there's a 50-50 chance. They're going to win, they're going to lose. And yet people fall victim to these solicitations. One of my favorite ones is when these 800 phone number operators, these salesmen that beat you up, they hit you with these, hey, you got to pay me more because I've got to get the inside information on these games. There's no such thing as inside information. That one has got to be my absolute favorite ploy that they use.
Well, Al, I mean, you come from this business and you've seen it all. So you've worked, so to speak, underneath Disney World, and you know how Dumbo flies. But I would just tell anybody out there that anyone that's talking to you over the phone in general, well, it's just not safe because there's no recording of that phone call. No one else knows what he's saying. He could potentially give you one side and give somebody else another side, and nobody would know. And just the fact that he would operate in a situation like that isn't transparent would tell me that if it smells like a fish, it's probably a fish.
And Steve, you hit the nail on the head. That's how most of these phone room operations still work to this day. These guys have been running the same scams since back in the late 70s. They operate a phone room and they split the phone room down the middle. Side A, with one company's name, will give out one side of the Monday night game. Side B, with the other company name, will give out the other side of the Monday night game, because then on Tuesday morning, they are assured that at least 50% of their clientele got a winner. And guess what? They have a third company with a third sports handicapper's name waiting to be pitched to you the following Monday night. And it's a 3-card Monty scam. So listen, guys, again, when something is told to you to be absolutely free by a guy generally with this big-time New York accent on an 800 number, and they're telling you it's absolutely free, don't fall for the scam. I know W.C. Fields said many, many years ago, there's a sucker born every minute. You don't have to be that sucker, guys. So that's your gambling advice from the insiders here, because we've been in this business long enough to see all the scams out there. So it's our job to inform you, the gambling public, of what the real deal is. Steve, Dallas -3 at San Francisco. The Cowboys very impressive on Sunday night against the Chicago Bears. But again, it came against the Chicago Bears. But I will say this, Zeke Elliott and Dak Prescott, 2 back-to-back impressive games in the road win against Washington and in hammering the Bears on Monday night. And now they go to San Francisco, taking on a 49ers team that looked good against a Rams team in the Monday night opener and their home opener in the 28-0 shutout. But since then, they get clobbered at Carolina, get clobbered at Seattle. Now they're back at home. But could this be the trap game I was alluding to with Dallas -3? Because doesn't everybody and their brother just want to naturally jump on the Cowboys in this spot?
Yeah, and getting clobbered by those two teams, you know, you can understand it. I mean, there was a time out when this matchup demanded our attention. Not anymore. It's the Romo-less Cowboys versus a San Francisco team that's 2-5 against the spread the last 7 games. And I got to tell you, I do feel like we're getting tremendous value here with a good road team in San Francisco against a Dallas team that at some point has to adjust to the reality that they've lost their general, and for all intents and purposes, their season is over. So give me the San Francisco 49ers here, plus the points.
And I tend to believe that you're on the right track here. And one thing, if you notice in the second half of the Sunday night game, when the Bears went up-tempo, you have a Dallas team that's very thin defensively, especially along that front line. The Cowboys were winded. What is Chip Kelly going to do? What Chip Kelly always does. He goes up-tempo. And by virtue of being the former Eagles coach, he's very familiar with the Dallas Cowboys schemes, their defensive personnel, and the 49ers are going to play up-tempo. And they could have the Cowboys defense on its heels. To me, this is the ultimate trap game on the board. You either stay away or, like Steve said, I think you go ahead and take San Francisco. And this could be one of those doggies that wins the game outright. Next game, Arizona against Los Angeles. Was there any bigger egg laid than by the Cardinals last week? Going to Buffalo, a Bills team that absolutely could do nothing the week before and gave up 493 yards to the Jets. And yet Rex Ryan's defense shows up totally shuts down Carson Palmer and rolls big time over Arizona last week.
I'm sorry, Al. I thought the Cardinals would absolutely crush the Bills in Buffalo. And
Me
like
too.
most people, I was wrong. I mean, it happens at least once a day, but sometimes I'm going to be wrong. But I'm not going to compound that mistake by thinking that they won't come back here and regroup and hit this Los Angeles team like a piñata at a Mexican bar mitzvah. Al, I don't know who that team was in Buffalo last week, but I would be shocked, absolutely shocked, if they don't bounce back here big and crush this LA team. Give me Arizona here. They got one more chance before I put them on the pay no mind list. Arizona minus the big wood, my double-digit blowout of the day.
I have to agree with you here. Listen, they stunk up the joint in week number 1, falling down 10-0 early against New England. Drew all the criticism from their general manager after that. Showed up in week number 2, totally took care of business, hammered Tampa Bay. This LA Rams team, okay, they showed up last week against Tampa Bay, played well on the road. It was Tampa Bay. Now they're coming into town. Arizona's got to show up for this game to even their record. Everybody thought this was a Super Bowl contender. They're 1-2, must-win situation. You're getting line value here because if they had won at Buffalo, no doubt this would be 10.5. 8 points, it's a bargain. You got to go with Arizona if you're going to play this game. And also, this is a great game from my perspective to look at a possible teaser here. 2 teams, 6-point teaser. You're taking Arizona down to 2. Anything under a field goal when you can take a team at home in a 2-team, 6-point teaser, it's a great opportunity, and Arizona certainly fits the bill. Last game, Pittsburgh against Kansas City. So I was a little wrong with the Steelers last week here on the show, saying that they would take care of business in Philadelphia. This is a pretty interesting game. I mean, the Steelers had a lot of their flaws exposed by the rookie Carson Wentz last week at Philly. One of them, a defense that was suspect last year in the secondary, but those flaws were covered by a strong pass rush that produced 46 sacks a year ago. Well, the secondary still has problems covering anybody, and the Eagles have no good wide receivers. Through 3 games, Steelers just 1 sack. Now, you know Kansas City and Alex Smith, they're going to attack that secondary. And Smith, much like Carson Wentz, has that mobility in the backfield. And Kansas City certainly playing with a little confidence after the home win last week. But their only road game, they were handled defensively by the Houston Texans. Interesting price, 5.5. Not a number that you normally see in the NFL. It makes me lean a little toward Kansas City, but this is a really tough game to handicap because I don't know what we're going to get from Pittsburgh here.
Well, I understand the lean towards Kansas City, but I said it last week, and I'll say it again. That Jet team that they beat last week, they're a fake, they're a phony, and they're a fraud. The Chiefs beating them means absolutely nothing. I said on the show last week, they beat them, and they did easily. The Steelers, awful last week, but that was on the road, and now like P. Diddy, they're coming home, and I believe Big Ben will bounce back here in front of the home crowd. In fact, I look for scoring from both sides here, Al. This game is going way over the posted total. Chiefs know they cannot run against the Steelers, so they have no choice but to keep it in the air. That all translates to high scoring. So give me the over 47 and a hooker.
Well, listen, Kansas City's pass rush is non-existent because their top pass rusher, Holman, I think is his name, Justin Holman, he's out till November because he's still recovering from knee surgery. I do remember week number 1, Phillip Rivers absolutely carved up this Kansas City pass defense playing at Arrowhead. So Roethlisberger, who had that great game in the Monday night debut at Washington, 3 touchdown passes, you know, he was so-so against Cincinnati in the rain and the mud, 3 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, had a miserable game, couldn't find anybody, and his pass protection constantly broke down against Philadelphia. I can certainly see him having a big game here. I think the difference to me in this game is they get the running back, Le'Veon Bell, back here after serving the 3-game suspension. So although it's a strange number, although I said initially leaning toward Kansas City, listen, this is a game that I was so wrong with Pittsburgh last week. I'm a little gun shy. I can't play it. It's also one of my favorite teams, the Steelers. So if I had to flip a coin, you put a gun to my head, I'd probably say, although I lean a little toward Kansas City, if you made me put money on it, I'd still probably go ahead and bet the Steelers. But again, 5.5, what a strange number. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Pittsburgh Steelers win this 31-14 or something like that. Listen, that concludes this week's show. As I said, each and every week we break down the top games from a point spread perspective. You can also catch my daily video report right here on the sites. For Steve Budin, this is Al DeMarco, and we'll catch you next week right here on the Football Insiders.